All right, hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of Culture Study. I am Jack, joined by my fellow co-host.
Giovanni.
All right, and so we are back here today. Been a week. We are here, Gio. What are we discussing today?
Today we're going to be talking about Dreamcatcher's latest release, Apocalypse.
Follow us.
What's it called?
Apocalypse, follow us.
Yes, Apocalypse Follow Us. It came out a few days ago, and we're going to give our thoughts and interpretations of the album, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah. As far as background, do you have any sort of details you want to give on Dreamcatcher before we get into it? Because I know we haven't covered them, but I know you obviously are a fan of their music. You were obviously the one who showed them to me. And
We haven't covered them yet.
We have not.
That's surprising. I thought we had. So Dreamcatcher is or was. They came from very humble beginnings. At first, they were known as Minx, and there was just 5 members. It was Chiyu, Sua, Shion, Tami, and Yuhyun. But then, since at the time of their debut, everybody else was coming out with the same cute concept, so they didn't see any success or much success. So they decided to, close the door on Minx and re-debut as Dreamcatcher. They added 2 members to the lineup, Gahyun and Handong, and their debut was very strong debut, quality wise, because they went with heavy metal, heavy rock, and it was very different from whatever everybody else was doing. So they definitely stood out. But the problem is South Korea isn't that big of a fan of the rock sound. So even though as the years went by, they saw more success internationally. Domestically, there was still kind of a small group. But I'd say maybe starting 2020 onwards, they started seeing more success domestically. Not as successful as other names, but definitely an improvement for them. So I think it was February of 2020 they released Mason, Apocalypse Save Us, the album is called, and they started this new storyline, which is focused on the environment, saving the environment, bringing awareness to the environmental issues that we're facing. And they did this thing with their music video. They went completely set free. Everything was CGI. To completely reduce the waste that comes from, filming and creating music videos on sets, because all of that just goes to the trash once it's used. So in an effort to kind of stand behind their words, they decided to go full CGI. And people didn't really, there was some mistakes in the music video that kind of put people off. But Mason was a very important time for Dreamcatcher because they got their first win after 7 years. So it was a very emotional time for them and the fan base. And now, I think 6 months later, am I doing the math right? 8 months later, they came back with Apocalypse Follow Us with the title track Vision, which is the continuation of Mason because it's the same storyline, and they kind of kept let's be environmentally friendly while making our music video, but this time around they did have a set, so it's kind of 50-50 on if they did it well to stay to their word, but because of the issues that they faced with Masons and music video, I guess they decided to play it safe and have actual sets. So, what else is there to say? I guess that's like the pretty Dreamcatcher summarized in a very simplistic way. There's like more to talk about, but there's like dramas throughout the years and stuff like that. But I think people who know Dreamcatcher are already familiar with it, saying how it's one of the key points that are always mentioned when Dreamcatcher is the topic of discussion. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
All right. Yeah, and real quickly, I just wanted to ask you because I know kind of what both our thinking was of the release that came earlier this year. What were your expectations when you heard they were dropping this sort of like mini, or would you call it like a mini album? It's like 6 songs, and 2 of them are an intro and an outro, which are just instrumental, which doesn't mean that they're not good instrumentals. I did like them, but I just want to know, what were your sort of expectations heading into this compared to, or what were your expectations heading into this after the release from earlier this year?
Well, there was a lot of during the build up of the comeback, a lot of information was released regarding it, what genre the title track was going to be, what elements would be involved in the song, and there was a lot of spoilers from the members, kind of hinting at what the concept would be. They were doing a lot of V signs or like the peace signs, and people were speculating that it would be like a V for Vendetta kind of concept. But as we got closer, they told us that it was Vision, and then people started again speculating, oh, what vision are they going to give us and stuff. When the genre was released of the title track during an article or an article interview, I was kind of like iffy on it because it was dark techno, and seeing how, well, to me, Dreamcatcher hasn't been doing their older stuff music wise. Like before, it was like a lot of like heavy rock elements and like heavy metal and stuff like that, and I really liked it because they stood out from everybody else. But as I guess the members are more involved in the decisions when it comes to the types of music that they include in their albums, they've been like kind of chilling out on that. So I wasn't expecting too much from like the B-sides. I just wanted the title track Vision, to be like a headbanger, like very like, yo, this is lit, like their like previous stuff. So that's for like the music wise. I was really looking forward to the music video because I wanted them to redeem themselves coming from Mason, because the Mason music video had a lot of mistakes. It wasn't up to Dreamcatcher standard. I don't know if you've like seen their music videos before, but Dreamcatcher have some of the most beautiful music videos in the industry, and I'm very confident in saying that because literally no one comes close to the amount of or what they had before. And now it kind of, to me, Mason was just like, I don't know, it didn't feel very Dreamcatcher like. So I really wanted them to redeem themselves with Vision. So when the music video dropped and I watched it at 2 a.m., I stayed up to watch it. I was very disappointed by it at first because it wasn't what I expected, but as I watched it more, I watched it like a good 50 times because maybe like at the 20th time watching it, they started like certain things started clicking in my brain, and then I started liking it more. And then by the 50th, I was like, yo, this music video has a lot more depth than I thought it did. So yeah, I was mainly looking forward to that music video, but yeah, that was, I guess, my expectations.
if I remember correctly, Mason was the one that we looked at in that video where we looked at different K-pop videos, right, and songs.
Yeah, that was the first K-pop related video podcast that we did.
Sorry, I was doing something. But yeah, so I remember that. I remember, yeah, we had, different criticisms for that song, or not the song really, but like you said, like the video where we just kind of noticed things were off, and that was obviously before, I really started getting into K-pop, so it was just from like an outsider's perspective. Things that I had mentioned were kind of off, definitely. As far as vision goes, or well, I guess you lead us off. Where do you want to start off as we get into this review?
Did you watch the music video?
Yes.
Let's just start off with the music video, and then we'll get into the rest of the songs. Actually, let's start with the intro. The intro of the album. It's I can't remember the name of it, but it's intro something. What did you think of it?
Chaotical X is what it's called.
Yeah.
Let me try. So the intro, I thought it was, an okay intro. I do sort of like this. I don't think too many people do it. I think they did it on their last album too. Dreamcatcher has like these sort of little intros. They're not particularly long. They're just like a quick, usually less than a minute type intro. And I definitely think it works in the sense of it accomplishes this sort of how would you say it? Basically what an intro is, to kind of give you a preview of what you're getting into, like right before you get into Vision, the title track, it kind of gives you like this little preview of what to kind of expect sonically from the next track or the album as a whole,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they've been doing intros, and this is their debut, a mini album. It's kind of like a staple for them, and it's kind of expected at this point because I don't think I could think of another group that has like an intro to their mini albums or their EPs or whatever. It's very like unique to Dreamcatcher. Some of the previous ones are very are very good. They're like they set the mood of the album perfectly. Like my favorite one is from Rate of Dream, the special EP that they did. It was a collaboration with a game, and I really enjoyed how it was very like intense in the beginning, but then the piano at the end kind of soothes down what we're feeling, and then puts us like in a different headspace, and that really reflects what the EP is. But for this one, Chaotic X, it does its job. Like it does its job. It's not like it doesn't like stand out on its own like other intros. It just does its job. It has that techno, vibe to it, and then it just sets up for the dark techno that's in Vision. So it's kind of underwhelming.
Yeah, like you said, it isn't like a standout sort of track, And I know a lot of people would be like, well, it's just an intro, but like how you were mentioning, I haven't heard that one, but like there is a way to make like even just a short instrumental intro like stand out and kind of in a sense, like, because this one obviously, like we're saying, it accomplishes its job, but like you can do both at the same time. You can accomplish what you're setting out to and still stand out in a way.
Yeah. The intros are very, at least in Dreamcatcher's case, the intros are very important in setting the tone, not just for the EP, but like the overall, the overarching message of their comeback. It's literally the introduction to everything. So it should be more than just like a preview of what the music is sonically. It should also kind of try its best to convey the feelings that they want us to associate with the EP as a whole. Because I feel like if you were to ask other Insomnias, to think of an intro, let's say from like Road to Utopia, they remember how they felt while listening to it. There go those emotions, like kind of transcend through the entire EP. So it's in their case specifically, the intro is very important, and I feel like they kind of missed it a little bit in for this EP. But that could be like a biased opinion, in my opinion. Biased opinion, in my opinion, yes, good English. It could just be like a biased opinion on my hand, because I don't know, I just like the other ones better.
Yeah, I definitely feel it. Getting into the title track "Vision," you said want to talk about the music video first. You said you watched it a ton of times. What do you think, or obviously, what are your opinions on the music video? But what do you think they did best in the music video? Because you kind of talked about it a bit, saying that like after a couple more watches, you started to really see sort of things differently.
Hmm. Well, I still have like a big problem with the music video, and that's just like the story of it, or just like the story of like this whole apocalypse. It's very weak. It's not like in comparison to like the dystopia one. There were so many layers to it. There was like so many characters involved. They were portraying so many different things in that trilogy. But then we got this one, and it's very straightforward. Apocalypse. During Mason, they're like these deities, goddesses that come to Earth to kind of destroy the evil. And then in Vision, they're, I don't know, I don't know what the most accepted theory is at the moment about Vision, but I'd say they're the same like goddesses from Mason, and now they're trying to unite everyone on Earth by sending out a message to like every corner of the world to unite people and to stand up against the enemies. But that doesn't really make sense because in Mason they killed the enemies. So who's the enemy? I don't know. So it's a very weak story in my opinion. But as for the editing and the visual effects and the CGI improved a lot. They didn't have the same very what's the proper word, like the very amateur mistakes. They didn't have those anymore. Everything was done a lot, I guess, more carefully and actually put effort into the making of the CGI. The VFX, some of them were really impressive. I don't know if you remember the GU shot where she's kind of like spinning and there's like pink lightning. That was the best shot from the music video. But as far as like the whole how it was recorded, it was very nice because at first, since I'm used to like the usual K-pop editing, which is like mash cuts, jump cuts, mash cuts, jump cuts, I kind of like, since I didn't see any of that, I was like, how did they put this music video together? But then after seeing it more, I started like noticing how the camera angles was like directed, or is directed the proper word? Kind of like guided the music video. Yeah, guided is a better word. So at some points it started off with like the camera angle pointing down at the member, and then it would kind of like transition to be at eye level, and then just like the overall camera movement is what unites the clips together. And once I noticed that, I was like, whoa, that's actually pretty impressive, because you could tell that was definitely premeditated. What else is there? So overall, I don't know. There are some parts like when they're standing in front of the podium, and they're like, that's like the message that they're trying to sing. I can't help but cringe whenever I see that part. And like now that I've seen that part so many times, and it's kind of like associated with that part of the song. So whenever GU starts singing those lines, I'm just like, I can't help but cringe. So yeah, it's kind of Vision is. It has its moments in the music video, but it's also like very cringy, and that's what I don't like about it. It's just this. I feel like the story should be less realistic and more like, what's the word?
fantasy.
Yeah, it should be more fantasy. Like it shouldn't like yes, the topic should be like saving like the planet from evil or whatever, but it should be like um a more creative take on it and not very like down to
Cliche.
earth because then I don't know that kind of limits how creative they can be and just makes the story very boring. Because then once I don't know how they're gonna do it in the third part because if they just come up with some very simple solutions like oh yeah we just need to do this and then we every Earth is saved we could save the planet from all the pollution and stuff and that's just gonna be it's gonna come out as very arrogant and it's not gonna be a good look for them. So I really wish they took the dystopia one where it's kind of like we've seen this in action like in real life but there was magic and deities and magical trees and all of this stuff that kind of took the down to earth away from it and they made it entertainment and not kind of like a political lesson or an environmental lesson because then that's kind of like I get where they're coming from but at the same time it's music it should be a little bit more it should be more entertaining. That's just me. What are your thoughts on it?
I get you. I think the biggest thing, and I don't want people to think like it's like, because you kind of mentioned it similarly. I think a big issue is they're definitely following a lot of cliches when it comes to the whole apocalypse storytelling that a lot of medias do. Like they're being like how you were kind of saying they're being very like simplistic and oh gosh what's the word but like like they're like how you're saying they're being very simplistic with like the storytelling and not really taking too much of a how would you call it like basically they're not being like I don't want to say they're not being creative but they're not like pushing I guess you could say the limits of creativity when it comes to telling a story that's kind of been told multiple times,
Mm-hmm.
Like I think that was something I forgot what we said it on. It may have been when I was talking wrestling with Mr. Solis, but like, it's always very difficult when you want to tell a story that's already been told and you need to find a way to tell it in a unique approach.
Mm-hmm. And that's one thing that they did in the Dystopia trilogy really well, because each part of the Dystopia focused on a different like social issue, and the way that they went about it was very creative. Like in Dystopia Lose Myself, the title track was Boca, and it was basically telling people to stop saying mean things to each other and close your mouth, like, Boca.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like one of the first lessons that we learn when we're children. If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything. But the way they went about it with, because so many people are saying so many bad things, all of that evil is affecting them who are supposed to be like the goddesses, and then the tree began to rot, and then some of them turned into the evil. They were corrupted, and there were so many layers to the story. And then like everyone was just spent hours and hours watching the music video, reading the lyrics, trying to dissect everything and come out with like a plausible theory to the story. And it was so much fun being part of that because in my server we were going crazy, referencing so many different parts of like religions around the world, historical documents, mythologies, and it was just such a fun time. But then when we got to Mason and Vision, we were like, oh, so this is what they basically told us the story instead of showing it to us. So then we were just like, oh, they came down to Earth, they killed the evil, which was represented by a goat, which is supposed to represent the devil. So they killed the evil, and there are these badass goddesses that are taking action. And then, okay, that's about it. We're done. It was like a 10-minute discussion. And then in Vision, it's the same thing. It's another 10-minute discussion. So there might be some people that might get a little bit more into it, just like try to like nitpick at the details and try to like make it copium. Try to like make it more than it is. But it's not as fun when the story is told to you, and when it's shown to you through very creative methods and references to like other stuff.
Yeah, and I remember very clearly we talked about that. We didn't really expand on it too much, but I brought it up that like a lot of issues people are having with a lot of different shows, movies nowadays, is that they're doing too much telling rather than showing.
Yeah.
The best storytellings and forms of media that that people reference back to is always the ones that were able to show you the story developing rather than just telling it right to you.
Yeah, and it's kind of ironic because it's storytelling, but they're not telling us anything. They're showing us like, and some of them are like very like subtle that only like a few people pick up at first. But then once you notice it, it like completely changes everything, and stuff like that I love. And I feel like, the argument could be said that it's just a music video. It's just for people who come across it, watch it, and then from there they search up the artist's music, and it's the music that matters, not the music video. But then the same thing could be said. It's like a music video is how people find artists, and if the music video like what's the proper word, entrances them in in the members and the music, it's basically the introduction to the group, so it should be done well enough, and it should be what's the word, it should have enough substance to have its own weight in the industry. Because if someone shows me like Vision, the music video, compared to Stray Kids' latest one, it's like Code 134 or something, and that music video has references to The Shining. Just this like, this is like how did a K-pop group incorporate The Shining to their concept? Like, I want to learn more compared to Vision. They're telling us to come together, and they're sending a message around the world. It's not. I've seen this before. I haven't seen this before, kind of thing.
Yeah, visuals are really a key aspect of music that a lot of people kind of underrate. Because visuals, especially like a music video, can sort of, and especially multiple music videos that tell a story for an album, for a group of songs, whatever it may be, it can create a world for people to dive into and really dissect and give them this visual to what they're listening to. And it's kind of why I always, preach that like the two most important things when it comes to the music, obviously, like you said, the music itself is important and it's what's going to get people to continue listening. But when you're trying to gain new viewers or new listeners and all that, and grow your fan base and get more people into this sort of stuff, the two things visual wise that I think are most important are music videos and album covers. I know for a lot of people, they're like, why is this guy so obsessed with album covers? But like, just like a music video, an album cover, I don't want to make it seem like you're judging a book by its cover, but it really does, an album cover can really get someone interested just off the look, where they see an album and they're like, hey, that's like a really cool artwork, that's a really like interesting sort of artwork, and it gets you kind of thinking, well, what does this album sound like? And similarly, a music video, it can be like, obviously you're hearing the music along with it, but you're seeing all these different visuals, and you're sort of getting a picture of maybe what this artist, what this group is like, and it intrigues people and entices them more to look into their other works. Like you said, look up the artists and their other songs, look at what other music videos they've done, see if they tie into one another, see if there's a theme that you like with this band, group, artist, whatever it may be, And real quickly, just to make sure that people don't think I'm entirely hating on this, I will say, like we were saying earlier, when it comes to Visions, I did like a lot of the visual effects, especially a lot of the lightning effects throughout it. I thought it was really good. I did like sort of the setting they created, it wasn't like the best visual wise. Like again, like Mason, there was still some areas where I'm like, that doesn't look as best as it could. But I did like sort of the setting they were building, and overall, when it comes to the song, I did like a lot of the vocals in it. I think the only part that I was somewhat like iffy on is like the rapping part. But other than that, I really liked the vocals, and I really liked a lot of the effects for this video. Uh, Definitely, I would say a lot of parts looked cleaner and more smooth from the last time I've seen the Dreamcatcher music video.
Yeah, I think I have a slight problem with the lightning. It didn't feel very epic, and I feel like not to be that guy, but like if you look at like a character like Thor, he's the god of lightning in Norse mythology, right? So when he uses lightning, there's like camera shakes, and then there's like the roar of the thunder and stuff like that. So you could actually feel his power. You could like visually see his power, and sonically too. But you could feel the power behind him. And then in the music video, I understand that it's K-pop and it's meant to show how pretty the members are and stuff like that. The whole superficial stuff. But I just wish, because like the way they were way too graceful, in my opinion, with the lightning, because they were just like flicking the wrist, and then like 1,000 lightning bolts would come out of nowhere, and then all of the surrounding enemies would just fall to their death and fall dead. And I'm just kind of like, oh, that doesn't really match what they're doing. But then the argument could be made, oh, they're so powerful that that's all they need to do to kill these people. And they would have just it would have been a lot better. Like we got like a more like action take, like an action version of those takes, so that we could feel like their power, and then they could create more energy. Because then I don't know, it doesn't, it fits, but it could be better. That's what I'm trying to say.
Let us get a lightning scene like Thor arriving in Wakanda in the Infinity War movie.
Yeah, if we would have like, dude, that would like. Again, it's two different things, but the principle is if you're going to show a character being powerful, we should see and feel their power be conveyed properly through the VFX and stuff. Because imagine they just add like a small camera shake and maybe it's like some sound effects with like some small lightning, thunder. I mean. That don't like necessarily like interrupt the music, but add to the music, kind of like in the Everglow's first in the beginning of the song. It's just straight up thunder with lightning, and you're just like immediately like, yo, what's going on? Because you like that just creates like a more retention in the viewer, because you're like, oh wow, this is epic. But that's just a small bone. It's not really. It's a very big bone, but that I have against the music video. I'm not a fan of the music video. Like I concluded that I don't like Vision, the music video. I like sonically, Vision is alright, but it's not as epic and that much of a headbanger compared to like Mason. Because when I heard Mason live at their concert, I was losing myself. That's a good pun. But yeah, Mason it's a lot more like powerful. It makes you want to like, commit. I'm not going to finish that sentence, but you know what I mean. Anyways, what are your like ending thoughts on Vision?
I think the phrase I guess I can give to best describe it, both the music video and probably the song for me personally, is that it just kind of left a lot to be desired. Like it wasn't bad, I'll say. Like there was, like I said, there was parts I really liked, but I don't know, there was just a lot more that I felt like could have been better. And like how you were saying, I understand, obviously it's a K-pop music video and all that, but like things still could have been better than what was displayed, I guess you could say,
Yeah.
But moving on, I guess, to the second track. Well, it's third track because of the intro. Fairy Tale. What did you think about this song, Gio?
I'm kind of torn. Right, I'm kind of not torn. I'm just like in the between a rock and a hard place, because I know people are going to enjoy songs like this that are on the lighter side because of how pretty the members' voices are and how well they go with each other. But I'm just not a fan of like the softer Dreamcatcher. I like the I guess not really girl crush, but just like I can't say that.
Lean more into the rock side that you were describing from like the earlier days.
Yeah, stuff like that. I guess it could be kind of like girl crushy, but girl crush is like a different sound. But just like when they're like a little bit more like intense and like ferocious, I like that side of Dreamcatcher. And this EP really reminded me of Summer Holiday, the EP that they released last year, I believe. It might be around the same time or maybe earlier, where the title track was kind of like it wasn't like I can't. It's just like Because was a little bit more intense than the rest of the album. It was kind of a weird phase for Dreamcatcher, because I know a lot of people were kind of thrown off by how many soft songs they had on the EP, and people were saying, "Oh, Dreamcatcher's changing their colors, they're trying to expand more," and people were very 50-50. But I guess they're really staying true to that, because we saw in the Apocalypse Save Us, they had like a bunch of solos, and only some of them were, maybe two of them were like intense or on par with like the Dreamcatcher's colors, and the rest of them were a lot more chill, softer songs. So I guess they're trying to expand to different, genres to not beat the rock concept to death. But yeah, you said, it's kind of like it left me wanting more.
Yeah, I definitely get you. Like isolating it, I like the song of it. I like the vocals and all that. It's a real good showcase of a lot of the members' vocals and all that. But looking at it with the perspective that it's a Dreamcatcher song, and going off of what you've shown me in the past, it just doesn't sort of. This is kind of a weird phrase to use, but like it doesn't scratch that itch that you're used to, like in a sense, getting from Dreamcatcher's music. It really does sound like their attempt, kind of like how you were saying. It sounds like their attempt at trying to not only expand to different genres, but like kind of in a sense matching the sort of K-pop sound in a way. That like. This is like, again, it kind of like I forgot what we said or what album was I was saying this, but it's one of those that like you hear it and you're like, oh yeah, that kind of sounds like what people think K-pop is in a way, But in a way, it doesn't sound. I want to say like it doesn't sound like what you're used to hearing from Dreamcatcher, and like. There is a way to still, like, because I get what you're saying of the whole, they don't want to beat the rock concept to death, but, like, there's still a way to continue that sound and evolve that sound without making it repetitive. But maybe I think the issue is they don't know how to do it in a way that doesn't make it repetitive to the domestic audience, I guess you could say. Because like you were saying at the beginning, the domestic audience isn't too... I guess you could say they don't mess too heavy with the rock and sort of metal side of things, and so it's like I the way I view it, it's probably like a sort of like internal struggle with like the group or the label or whatever, where it's like we don't, like how you were kind of saying, we don't want to continue doing this concept like and beating it to death in a sense, but wrong phrase to use, but just kind of repeating it, but then kind of struggling in a way to still make it like unique in a sense, I guess you could say. Like I don't know, it just doesn't feel like, again, isolating the song, I like it, but it just doesn't feel very Dreamcatcher in a sense.
Yeah, they've been really like successful in like mixing genres with rock or with metal. So I guess it's something that they were capable of doing before, but before the comeback, before the whole comeback process began, the one of the main producers for them, because it's two of them, it's Lees and Olander. One of them left to take a higher position at a different music company. I don't know what it was. I forgot their details, but one of them left, and a new guy took his place. And this is the new guy's first attempt at getting that Dreamcatcher sound. But I don't know if he worked on more than just Vision. But I know that they definitely lost one of their major pieces in like the whole music production. So going forward, it's going to be very interesting to see how they keep their colors. But another thing that's happening currently in K-pop, I don't know if you noticed it, but a lot more groups are like digging at the whole rock concept or rock sound. So like the big names are doing rock, some of the small names are doing rock, and Dreamcatcher is supposed to be the face of rock. That was like everyone keeps saying, "Oh, Dreamcatcher is the face of rock." Ever since that article came out by Rolling Stones, Indonesia or something, said claiming that they're the face of rock. It's kind of what's the word? Is it hypocritical? Is hypocritical the right word? Or maybe ironic that the face of rock is not doing rock.
Yeah, I was about to mention that like it's weird that you're saying that rock is kind of coming into prominence right as they're sort of like moving away from it, because like even going back to the release earlier this year, both you and I kind of said we didn't like the project as much, and I was very vocal in that like I didn't like the sudden turn where out of nowhere after like halfway through the album it just was solely solos, and a lot of them were like slower paced, almost like
ballads.
Yeah, like ballads, and it was just like I just didn't like that turn, and it's kind of weird to like see this approach now, where it's like it's weird that like now they're suddenly taking this approach, and like again, it could be because they don't want to wear out the idea, but then it's like you're kind of moving away from what people have known you as, like you're moving away from your bread and butter as a group.
Yeah, and there's been definite discussions on that, like on their subreddit, on Twitter, basically all the forums that have a Dreamcatcher related thing. There's been a lot of people saying that Dreamcatcher's abandoning rock to appeal to more people domestically, and just like a bunch of other theories saying why Dreamcatcher's like slowly not doing rock anymore. And you have the fans that are kind of saying, oh, they just want to expand on music that they want to make, because as artists or like as K-pop idols, you don't really have a say on what the kind of music that you create. So given that they want to start exploring other genres that they have like a yearning for or a desire to make, this is like a good opportunity to do so, because they're on their 7th year, maybe. Is it 7? It might be 6 going on to 7, or 7 just starting. I don't remember. But yeah, I guess this is like the proper time to do it, because in the beginning it's kind of like you have to have your own colors, but towards like the end you could kind of like do whatever you want. But it's kind of disappointing to see them abandon rock, because they were so good at it. And yeah, it's kind of sad, to be honest, because everyone has, like you were saying earlier, everyone has that itch, that rock itch, and Dreamcatcher is the thing that satisfies it. But when you get a Dreamcatcher release that doesn't have enough rock to satisfy that itch, it's kind of like what's like the proper word for it? It's like kind of betrayed in a way.
Real quickly, Joe. I just want to say there's 15 seconds left on this episode. We'll continue this discussion and reviewing the rest of the album in a part 2, but we'll close out real quickly with this episode. Tune into the next episode.